What is going on, guys? It has been a minute, and welcome back to another episode of Rapflex Radio. I am your host, as always, Kyle Rapp, and I'm so glad to be back. It has been kind of a long few weeks, months for us all, and I am absolutely no exceptions. We had the Charlotte episode a couple weeks ago, and I had planned to batch record last week, and it didn't happen. And I think we're all dealing with our own trials and struggles and tribulations right now, and this is sort of medley what I'm going to be talking about. With maybe there's some hidden fears, or you're just overwhelmed, or there's other circumstances involved with why you're not executing the way you want to. And really, the 5 Fears series is going to elicit some of this sort of subconscious awareness and emotion for you to kind of unravel and uncover. Maybe I do fear failure, other people's opinions. Maybe I do fear success when I explain it the way I do, because on the outset that seems a little weird. Doesn't everyone want success? And how I'll explain it here in the next couple weeks, you'll understand absolutely what I'm talking about. But today, I really wanted to focus on the fear of failure, because this is something that I have had to coach my clients through. This is questions I get on the regular, and this was the perfect one to start with, because I think everyone starts with this fear of failure, especially right now, and I need to sort of reframe it for you, because it's really not fear that you're worried about. It's worry, and we'll get to that very, very soon. Some housekeeping. Just remember, please share this with anyone that you think would need it. That is how we grow organically. And please leave a 5-star rating and review if you love this show. And I am changing sort of. So I mention the Flex Philosophy course all the time, and it is still there. It's still for you. I still think it's extremely valuable. I am in the process of repositioning it, but right now I am starting what's called Inside Rapflex. So it's going to be in my private Facebook group. There are going to be videos that I'm going to talk about things that I don't typically talk about on the podcast, whether that is sort of my own evolution within entrepreneurship, copywriting, what I'm learning, anything like that. So if you're someone who's building a business, you're either an athlete, an online coach, who is interested in sort of a lot of things. Like I've got 5 Tim Ferriss books behind me, and he talks about, a multitude of things. And that's what I've always been very curious about, a lot of things. So if you're like me, please join me in my private Facebook group, and I will be sharing hashtag Inside Rapflex videos on Instagram, but you're going to find the full videos there. And it's basically just me going to explain my rationale and my process through a lot of different topics. And I've been doing this for 3 years, so there's a lot I've learned since then. There's a lot I am working towards now to be able to grow and scale. I think I built a solid foundation now with coaching and mentorship and courses and people I've learned from. So I want to be able to share that with you if this is something you were interested in. I'm calling it the 10K and 1,000 pound club. And I'm working my way as a bodybuilder. It's a little tougher. I'm not a power lifter. If I was, I'd probably be at 1,000 pounds. So if you don't know, the 1,000 pound is the bench, squat, and deadlift. I'm about at 915 right now if you combine all three. And my hope by the end of the year is to get to that 1,000. I want to show you how I've gotten there, and the physical actual progress, and fitness, nutrition, sleep, recovery, all that fun stuff too within the sort of physical side, while I do talk about mostly the mindset and the mental conditioning side on this podcast. So I do want to share all that too, because life is everything. And to be an elite performer, to live an elite life with purpose and love by design, we need to know what the best practices are for everything, and do our best to improve in every area of our life consistently. That's really where sort of the fear of failure can come in, and that's what I want to cover today. So let's dive into what is failure. So really, failure is lack of success. An unsuccessful person enterprise, or thing, the action or state of not functioning. So those are sort of the dictionary definitions of what failure would be. But really, if you take a step back and say, okay, is this failure or am I just not where I want to be right now? And really, it's this fear of inadequacy. It's like you try this thing for the first time and you're not very good at it, so you failed at it. Well, intellectually, we understand that if the first time you try something that you've never done before is going to be the worst time that you've ever done it. And that just intellectually that makes sense, but from a neuro emotional standpoint, like we're afraid to look stupid. We're afraid to look inadequate to other people that possibly have done it before. And we're not willing to go out on that ledge and look dumb until we get the reps and we understand like what the foundational principles are and like how to get better and who's done it before us, and that can really stop us from doing the things we really want to do. And really it is this worry. And these three worries that I'm about to share with you, I've learned from Brendan Burchard, and he has an amazing podcast. He has amazing everything. Definitely check him out. But when he said this, it just made complete sense to me because, let's dive into it. Fear is really, from an evolutionary perspective, it's self-preservation and safety with actual life and death that is at stake. You know, hundreds of years ago when we were hunting for our own food and saber-toothed tigers existed, that's what real fear is. When we talk about fear of failure and you actually fail, you're exactly where you were to begin with, and 99% of the time. It's really what are we worried about and what pain, physiologically and psychologically, are we going to go through if we, try this thing and we view it as failure. Really, the first type of worry and pain is this loss pain or worry of loss. And it's really thinking about, well, if I do this, I'm not going to be able to do this other thing. It's really an opportunity cost that we are considering, that we're worried about, and that we're going to lose out on something. Perfect example for my online coaches is when you have a client who wants to lose weight, but they have poor eating habits, and yes, you can still eat the food you love and lose weight, but you're going to have to eat less of it. It's just a reality. We have to be in a caloric deficit to lose weight. Now, your clients are worried about and that loss pain of losing their current lifestyle and the current way they eat, and they're going to have to start eating vegetables and changing their lifestyle to accommodate their goals. And that's when you say, well, what's more important to you? Kind of your current state and the pain that you're feeling right now, or the pain that you're going to go through by losing some of the stuff right now while you lose weight. So the second type is process pain, and it kind of goes along with the loss pain that I talked about. It's the journey, it's the struggle, it's the tripping and falling on your face. It is beating yourself up for maybe not doing the things you're supposed to do, and people don't tie sort of their aspirational identity, and going through the pain is absolutely necessary. We know that intellectually, but emotionally it's very hard sometimes to get that across. If you're an athlete, you're going to have to put in 12, 14-hour days in season. Off season's a little different, but when you're in the season, when you're in it, when you're grinding, really nothing else matters. And some people don't want to go through that struggle. They would rather their current life be where they are. They value comfort and security. And again, that's fine. Like success in sort of the upper echelon of what it is isn't for everyone. But you have to overcome these three fears if you want what you say you want, and it's what most people don't have. Lastly, outcome pain. If I do this thing, if I lose the weight, is the grass actually greener? Perfect example is weight loss. If you're married and you and your significant other are about the same weight. You lose 40 to 50 pounds, or are you going to be sexually attracted to your significant other now? Like that's something to think about, and that's why couples who grow together stay together is a fun phrase. But it's like if I put in all this work, if I go through the process pain, if I lose all the things I want, and I'm still miserable at the end, like, is it really worth it? That's what we're really sort of that fear of failure really is. It's not this actual like fear of, I tried picking up a guitar once, I sucked. Like, I'm never going to be good at it. Like, your actual life isn't at jeopardy there. We're just worried about looking stupid when we. I'm looking at mine right now because I'm kind of there. Just you're just strumming and not really knowing the mechanics and how everything goes together. But if you go through the process pain, if you lose time spending on watching TV, Netflix, and maybe the outcome isn't great, but it's something you enjoy. It's something that you enjoy going through the process of. Then it's going to be worth it, and you can apply that to really any long-term goal that you want. So think about, where's this loss pain? Where are my opportunity costs? What is my process pain, the struggle, and then the outcome pain? And part of my goal design process, the Mamba mentality, is what are you willing to give up? What are some extreme actions that you have? And really that cements what we're talking about when we talk about worry and pain. So struggles with fear of failure as we have been conditioned in society. Really, like I said, it's conditioning, time limits that we put on ourselves and that we think society has put on us, and others' opinions, which I'll get to next week when I talk about fear of others' opinions. So first, we're conditioned to think about everything that could go wrong instead of what could go right. And this is a perfect example in grade school. If you get an A or B, like absolutely nothing happens. That's what you're supposed to do. But if you get a D or F, you're shamed and you may get called to the principal's office and things are going to go down. That's not the way life actually works. Like, you can fail and no one really notices or cares, and you can be successful and no one really notices or cares. It's kind of all on you and the way sort of your self-concept is and how you approach it as far as what you see as success and failure, and what is failure or what is part of this journey and process, and you're just feeling this process pain. Second is this arbitrary time limit, or the all or nothing mentality. To say that, for my online coaches, I have to make a certain amount of money by December or I'm just going to quit and my dream is going to be ended, that's a very all or nothing mentality, and you're putting a strict time limit. And I'm not saying that every single person shouldn't put a time limit on it and set a goal, and I understand the financial reality of it, but this is why you have now installed the fear of failure, because you're automatically thinking, well, if I don't do this by then, I'm going to lose everything I've ever wanted to do in my life. And that's just a scary thought. And then we start to think about everything that's going to go wrong. And that's not how you reach your goals. You reach them through growth and contribution and supporting other people and doing the things you love and enjoying the process of it all. And that's really where fear of failure and this pain comes in. And lastly, other people's opinions, which I'm going to cover extensively in the next episode, but you're letting other people define success for you, whether it is your parents, whether it is your significant other, whether it is sort of your high school friend group that you hung around with and that's still lingering in your mind. That's you have to define your own success, your own life, because this is the only life you have. And here at Rapflex, we believe that elite life is executed with purpose and love by design. And by design meaning that it's on you. You need to define it. You need to be truly self-aware and know who you truly are. You need to set the vision of where you actually want to go and understand what it takes to get there. That's what habits and routines are. And then peak performance is doing things every day to get you where you want to go. And fear of failure can absolutely get in the way of that. Now, I want to show you a photo that is pretty popular on social media that I sort of want to debunk. Now, the top guy he keeps hustling, whatever you want to call it, motivation, discipline, aspirational identity. He keeps chucking at it. The bottom guy has quote unquote given up. He feels like he has failed and walks away. I sort of have a problem with this depiction because when the top guy gets to the quote unquote diamonds, what does that actually mean? Like what has he actually reached? Did he reach six figures? Did he reach his ideal body? Did he get married? Like what's on the other side of the diamonds? So what I've learned from Tim Grover is there's no floor, there's no ceiling. We can always constantly improve. So the guy at the bottom has just totally given up, but the top guy thinks he's going to reach this end outcome, end result, where really in the grand scheme of things, whether it is your health, relationships, or wealth, you're always improving and you're always making more. So that's where also this fear of failure comes in, where if you contextually understand that till the day you die, unless you run out of money or you don't pay your taxes, like you have another at bat. You have another shot at this. So just keep going regardless of reaching the diamonds. And that's where like true legacy and greatness comes from. It's knowing that there's no floor and there's no ceiling. There's just today in the process and what I need to do today. So really the goal of this episode, which I've sort of addressed already, is to develop your own definition of failure as it pertains to your life and goals and learn to reframe it to a positive. Did you fail, or was it a mistake that propelled you forward? And for me, I've told this story of quote-unquote failure for a long time, but I think I want to add a few things that I probably haven't discussed before. And it was when I applied for grad schools the first time. I applied to 3, Bowling Green, Tennessee, and Georgia Southern, and was rejected by all 3. At that point, I had absolutely no entrepreneurial aspirations whatsoever. I was 25, turning 26, living in my parents' house. I was basically bartending and going to the gym. That was about it. And I had a really low self-concept of myself, didn't see myself as much of a leader, didn't have any of this knowledge whatsoever. And someone came along, and completely changed the way I viewed failure. And it's going to take more than this podcast episode to completely reframe your fear of failure, but hopefully I am one of the 8 or 9 it takes for you to say, okay, if I were to believe this, if I were to believe that it's not this fear of failure, but it's really this pain, and I address those pains and I actually go and do what I say I want to go do, then I've done my job. So really it was the understanding that this wasn't a complete failure. I can apply again. It's only 9 or 10 months. The fact that my dad told me I should go be a gym coach or a gym teacher really stuck with me, and I could have let that, rot in me, but I didn't. I used it as fuel to figure out what I did actually want, because I know I didn't want that. And I'm here today because I went through pain. I went through the struggle of not getting what I wanted initially. And I owe a lot to grad school, of my statistical understanding of research. I've got some really great friends from it, so definitely not a loss, but this was definitely concurrently with my entrepreneurial venture. And second, let's take 1 and 2. I personally think that LeBron James is number 1. You can think otherwise, so I'm going to use both. Michael Jordan and LeBron James have probably failed more than anyone, and they're considered number one and number two ever. You know, from The Last Dance, we saw in the documentary that MJ went through a few years in the beginning where he didn't win. He failed, but he let that push him. He hired Tim Grover and got stronger and was able to beat the Pistons. For LeBron, he was unfortunately drafted by the Cavs, which is a great story because he's from Akron. But when he left to Miami and won championships, I think he had to go through the failure of being with Cleveland to really go to Miami, understand how important it was to be surrounded by the best. He completely changed the landscape of mobility within basketball, came back to Cleveland with this understanding and won a championship for Cleveland. And I'm biased, but I think that is the most important championship that has ever happened in any sport, because it was absolutely crazy that he beat that Golden State Warrior team. And we see that as true success. And I've never seen someone emotionally elated and excited to win something than I saw LeBron when he won that championship. But there was a ton of failure before that with those early Cleveland Cavalier teams. Some other examples. The show Seinfeld, which I'm a big fan of, took 4 years and time slot help from Cheers to be successful. Imagine producing a show for 4 years and really not gaining traction or an audience until you were given help from a really, really good show, and then you finally took off. Family Guy, which is another one of my favorite shows, was canceled twice before 2005, and DVD sales showed its potential. There were a lot of people buying DVDs, so Fox said, okay, let's give this another shot, and it's been on for another 15 years, and I believe going strong. And had a spinoff of the Cleveland Show, which I can enjoy. Third, Mad Men, which I have watched, but I haven't dove into really, was turned down by 66 buyers before AMC picked it up. Imagine getting rejected, which is in 2 weeks, or feeling like you failed 66 times. And what kept them going? Because they believed in what their message was as a show. 3 other examples. Tim Ferriss' book, The 4-Hour Work Week, was rejected by 25 publishers. So I'm blending a little bit of the fear of rejection and fear of failure because they're sort of the same thing, but I wanted to highlight rejection because I know that, especially with relationships, that can be an issue. But right now I'm talking about failure. Tim could have thought, like, I'm not going to be a writer because I've been rejected by 25 publishers. This isn't going to work. And then I wouldn't have 4 more books behind me in the podcast and everything of value that I've learned from him and everything else. Second, Tim Grover reached out to every single Chicago Bull on the roster in 1990 and only received 1 response, and that was from Michael Jordan, who is always constantly wanting to get better. Third, Jack Canfield, the writer of The Chicken Soup for the Soul, was rejected 144 times. Imagine feeling like you're a failure 144 times and still pursuing it. That's incredible. And I believe that book has sold over 1 billion copies as far as all the installments, and which is also crazy. So going forward, I want you to keep these 5 keys in mind to overcoming the fear of failure. Decide what you truly want, and for me, that is clarity and refusal to be average. And I've dove into the Enneagram, and that is, like, insignificance is my ultimate fear. And for me, when I coach clients, it's, okay, what do you truly want? Like, if other people's opinions weren't in your way, if you didn't have the fear of failure or the worry of rejection, like, what do you really want? And then that will clarify, like, okay, this is what I truly want. There's, like, quote unquote nothing else, even though this is life we're talking about. But if we're talking about one specific goal, that if you refuse to be average, what are you going to do that most people don't do? So second, decide what you need to do on a daily and weekly basis, aka set the standard. This is habits and routines 101. But if you're trying to become a great writer, speaker, coach, do it as often as you can within the context of your life and what you're able to do. But set that standard and grow and improve each and every day and each and every week. Third, decide you value growth and contribution above everything else. It's no longer about you. So when you take your ego away from it and tell yourself, this isn't for me anymore. This is for my mom and dad. Talking about athletes right now. This is for my teammates. This is for my coach. This is for my school. This is for my future self. Then going through that pain, going through the process pain, going through sort of everything that you're giving up during the season, it's going to be a little easier to push through and to do your best rather than constantly thinking of how it's affecting you. From an online coach standpoint, it's who are my clients, who am I talking to, who am I contributing value to, and who am I making their lives better for. And then that's going to allow you to get out of your own ego, at least it has for me, and I've seen this within my clients too. It's going to let you to get out of your ego and push forward because it's going to help someone else. Fourth, and I got this from Gary Vee, it's fail on purpose. Prove that you can survive. And when I say stay down a bit, when you do fail and you do feel like you either haven't given it your best or you don't understand why you didn't get the desired result, or you don't conceptually understand why you didn't do the thing you wanted to do, stay down a bit and start to think why. And then ask yourself, what's the deeper cause of that? Because that will allow you to kind of take a step back and sort of, you will simmer in that pain, and then you'll understand why, and then you'll never want to be there again. I hope that makes sense. Please let me know if that doesn't. But fail on purpose because less people are paying attention than you think there are. Lastly, mentorship and coaching. This has been the absolute game changer for me, and that's why I started becoming a coach. I can teach you this on this podcast, but to implement it for you personally, to kind of understand your story, where you've come from, the things you battle, that's a separate discussion, and we can create a plan for you to overcome those things. But that only comes from mentorship or coaching to understand individual circumstances. So to wrap up, I want you to start to think about your definition of failure. What do you consider failure to truly be? Is it if you pick something up once, you don't do a very good job, you never do it again? Is that failure? Or did you just not like it as much as you wanted to? Do you not want to go through the pain that it requires to become great at that thing? And that's okay too. Not everything's for everyone, obviously. But if you say you really want this, understand that failure is not going to get in your way if you reframe it the way that I have suggested and work on that every day. Because I have, and it's made a huge difference in my life, and it's allowed me to move forward in a positive way. So again, if you enjoyed this episode, please share your biggest takeaway, sort of aha moment. Please share it. 5-star rating and review would be absolutely appreciated. And if you are on iTunes or YouTube, please hit the subscribe button. I do not want you to miss any of the other 4 Fear series and every episode that's coming out afterwards. Until next time, guys, have a great day.